Illustration dates back to the prehistoric era, when it was the only form of communication between humans. Fast forward a few years, the medium of illustration is more polished, more advanced, and more fun! Which is exactly what we need in the new paranormal. My guest today is an amazing martial artist. I mean, look at this drawing of Shang-Chi and Mushu that he did. Fantastic! Please welcome celebrated illustrator Darren Yasay. Yeah! Darren, what are the ingredients for a Darren Yasay illustration?
Well, for me, I would say the ingredients to one of my illustrations. There's three ingredients. First one definitely has to be either Disney related, big Disney fan, or any kind of cartoon that I grew up with. So either something Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, something that just I love. Like I just love cartoons in general. So that's the first thing. Second thing, I always love to incorporate pop culture into my art. So whether it's movies, television, something of that sort that you may recognize, that's the second ingredient. And the third ingredient definitely has to be cute. My style is very much kawaii, very chibi, small, adorable. When people see my art, I want them to go, oh my gosh, so adorable, so cute. So definitely those three things make up a piece of mine.
You're so animated, I love it! Have you drawn any ghosts?
Yes, one of my favorite rides at Disneyland is the Haunted Mansion.
Good ride.
And so I've
Good
done
ride.
a few pieces related to some of the ghosts in the ride. One of the ones I'm proud of, I've actually done a piece where I did a crossover with the original Ghost Pokemon from the first region, and I combined it with the Haunted Mansion, so they were the hitchhiking ghosts.
Oh my gosh, so adorable, so cute!
That's one of my favorite pieces that I've done.
How long does it take you to do an illustration on average?
On average, I'd say if I'm completely just dedicated to my desk, from start to finish, I can finish it in about, I would say maybe 6, 7 hours, depending on how focused I am. But if I'm trying to draw while I'm at work, it could take a couple days. I'm always just trying to
Days?
draw nonstop. So depending if I have the time, a couple hours. If I'm working too, a couple days.
I've done some sketch work back in the day. I decided to sketch an actress. So I drew Barrymore. Ah! How do you find inspiration for your work?
Oh, a lot of my inspiration comes from my childhood, really. I started drawing because my dad, back in the day, he would make a bootleg VHS tapes and would draw the cartoon character or the character of the movie on the label. And so that's where I kind of got my inspiration for wanting to draw art. And as a kid, I was always just watching cartoons, a lot of Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, and then I trace the TV screen, trace my coloring books. And so anytime I draw now, I'm always kind of going back to my childhood. And so that's where a lot of my inspiration comes from, just a lot of what I loved as a kid, all that nostalgia.
What do you do when you want to feel relaxed and refreshed? Do you draw yourself a bath? Could you talk a little bit about your job at Disneyland?
Oh, yes. Well, for me, my start with Disney started back in college. Did a lot of research and discovered about the Disney College program, little internship where you get to work at the park. And so I applied for it, didn't get it. And so the second time applied, almost got in, got rejected again. And so my third time that I applied for this internship, they give you the option of whether you want to work at Disneyland or Disney World. And it was always Disneyland because I live in California. And so my third time, I'm like, I'm going to put down Florida. What are the odds they're going to give me that? And I ended up in Florida.
Florida?
So I had to take a whole semester off, worked at Disney World where I was a ride operator at the Toy Story ride there. And during my time in Florida, I applied for Disneyland's college program, finally got in, came back home, did go back to school and worked as a ride operator at the jumping jellyfish and the golden zephyr on the pier. And it wasn't until the end of my internship where I found out that they were having auditions for the Animation Academy. It's the little drawing class over at Hollywoodland. And I almost didn't audition. I was very much hesitant of doing it. I wasn't very confident with my work. And it wasn't until my manager at the time, she really pushed me and told me, what do you have to lose, Darren? The worst thing I can tell you is no. And so I'm like, you're right. So I went to the audition. I remember I went in dressed up. I had this little bow tie that I made to look like Baymax from Big Hero 6. I'm like, I need to stand out somehow. And so I went to the audition. And a month later, found out that I got the job. And so now I work as a sketch artist at the Animation Academy, where I teach guests how to draw our characters, kind of in the style of, those art books where they teach you how to draw a character, but somehow you're able to draw Ariel in 3 steps.
3 steps? 4 steps I can believe, but not 3.
Very frustrating. So it's kind of like that, but we go step by step, very slowly. A 15-minute show, and we run 2 shows every hour, and I've been there for about 7 years now.
How do you know which characters to draw on any given day?
Oh, yeah. Well, typically for us, we have like our set characters where we have to draw them. It's like Mickey, Minnie, the like Fab Five. And for some reason, we have to draw the Nightmare characters on the daily. We'll try to switch out our characters when we bring in new ones, just so it keeps the guests coming back for more. And so we have our set characters, but then every season we'll change out ones. So like, okay, we're not going to draw Baymax anymore. We'll bring in like Scrooge McDuck kind of stuff. So depending on the season and if new movies come out, we'll bring new characters in. So it's always kind of like always changing, just depending.
Fascinating. You're such a treasure, Darren. I know many folks who can't leave Disneyland without going to one of your animation shows. Now, Darren, or destroy it, Darren, to the Instagram community. How do you think social media has affected your work?
Well, I would say social media plays like a big role in illustration nowadays. For me, when I first started with social media, it was on Tumblr, and I saw a lot of art there, and I didn't see my art going viral until I started doing these little doodles on index cards, and I would hold them in cute, kind of whimsical ways. And that's where I started to get a big following. And when I decided to leave Tumblr, because there's a lot of art thieves out there stealing work, I moved over to Instagram when it was still kind of new. And a lot of my following went to Instagram. And now that's pretty much where I get a lot of, I would say, traffic, or how I get my art out there is through social media. So definitely it plays a big part for artists nowadays. It's not just, a place to showcase your work. It's also a chance for artists who have small businesses to use that platform in getting their income, but also a place for artists just to find inspiration. A lot of my art style nowadays, I would say, is heavily influenced by the work that I see from fellow artists that I follow on social media. So definitely plays a big role in illustration today.
On that note, I'd like to illustrate 2 important points. Thank you. Darren, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started your career?
What I know now, what I wish I knew back then, I really wish that I knew I can't animate to save my life. Because for me, I always knew I loved to draw, didn't know where I wanted to take this career. I grew up with strict parents who are like, you're going to be a nurse.
Ah, yes, of course.
Be a nurse. And I can't look at blood. I feel sick. So it wasn't until college where I'm like, I want to do art. And they're like, well, if you can make a living out of it, then go for it. So my first thought was animation. I love cartoons. I love to draw. That's my route for me. Go to went to college, go to Cal State Fullerton, got accepted into animation, and it wasn't until my junior year when I took my first animation course where I learned that I can't animate. It's so tedious. And for me, it's just hard to visually see things from a different perspective. And so I wish I looked more to the different fields of art. There wasn't just animation. I learned that I just love to draw in general. So illustration, if I had learned that I liked, I didn't know that illustration was a path that I could have took, then I would have taken that route. But props to all the people that want to animate because it's definitely a skill that takes a lot of patience.
Darren, it's time for the lightning round. Go! Favorite Halloween costume?
Mr. Fredrickson from Up.
That is so classic. Favorite non-human Disney character?
Stitch. My favorite, ultimate, my spirit animal.
Weirdest request for an illustration you've gotten?
Weirdest request, I was actually commissioned to draw the Statue of Liberty smoking a blunt with Jesus.
Interesting.
Mom was starting a dispensary, and that was the thing they wanted for their logo.
3 tools you can't work without.
3 tools that I can't work without would have to be my red and blue pencils here. Always have to start by sketching this. Then I go to my iPad. Always have to have this. And my third tool, I would say my little, my second phone for reference, just so I have it always next to me.
Most popular piece of art you've sold?
Ooh, my most popular piece of art that I sold is Tribal Stitch that I've done. Let's see, yeah, sell a lot of him. People love him.
Thank you, Darren, for shooting the sheet with me today. My friends, I must ghost you for now. Until next time, goodbye.